met them, but I do know Naomi and I do know Matt McAvoy. And
Good evening. Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee regular meeting of Thursday, July 14th, which is now called to order. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from the regular session of 5/24/2012, regular session of May 7th, 2012, budget and finance minutes of May 24th, 2012, as well as the acceptance of warrants 49V12, 51V12, 50P12, 52P12. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We don't have a student rep. That'll be in the fall.
that's right.
Next up is the public agenda items. Is anyone here from the public that wishes to speak on anything, about anything on our agenda this evening?
That's not on the agenda.
Overwhelmingly packed room. Mike, do you want to come up and talk about maintenance schedule and capital improvements? You weren't supposed to be first, but Carl's not here.
Okay. Works good for me.
All right. So, do you want to walk us through it?
Sure, I guess what started this is that the MSBA's kind of requested this, so we started putting this together. And eventually they'd like to see a copy of this, but it obviously has to be approved by everybody.
Okay.
And that type of thing. So the job list that I had submitted has been added to quite a bit because
Okay.
as the end of the year comes, we start adding all kinds of projects on. And but I guess if you guys probably all look through it, as you can see, we've created shifts for each custodian.
Okay.
Duties and responsibilities, that type of thing. I created some kind of like some snow removal policies and that type of stuff.
Right.
All will go kind of hand in hand with requests that MSBA have made.
Okay.
But I think one of the main things would be the capital improvement things.
Yep.
I'm just trying to find it.
Which on the last couple pages.
Yeah.
It's the third from the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, these are all things that I've taken from speaking with like the building principals, records we've had of past like biz managers, recommendations for capital improvements, speaking with Carol and different things. So, but obviously, anything you guys see or that you think should be there, obviously we can add on to it. It's kind of like just a running.
In the priorities,
Spreadsheet.
did you set the priority or was that with the administrators?
Most of them are with different administrators of their
Okay.
buildings of how they felt.
All right.
They like, and some things like the inspection of the septic system are things that we just have to do, and so
Right. Yeah.
it just takes precedence over everything else.
Oh, I'm glad the roof is still on for the high school.
That's $1 million.
That was the price we got.
Yeah, it's an estimate. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've had that a couple times.
so
Looked at a
it's
few
always been
times.
$1 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always been, I'm going to say like 850 to $1 million has always been.
Now, in the long term, that kind of a project could be submitted to the MSBA, and they have a roof project grant.
right.
And there could be a reimbursement, again, we'd have to figure out with them what the reimbursement is, but if it's comparable to the percentage of what they'll pay and the reimbursement rate for the building project that we're talking about at Pembroke, it would be, in the order of 50%. So, of course, it's got to be part of the long-range discussion about funding all projects for the town, not just the projects for the schools, because it would require the town to appropriate half of the money.
I think Whittier did that.
Whittier did do
They had
that.
their roof replaced with an MSBA.
Oh, yeah, because we were thinking about that this year, but then we decided with everything that's
Right,
going on.
that's right. We did
We
pull
have
it
too
off
many
the
moving
table.
pieces right
Yeah.
now
We
did.
to figure that out. Okay.
And two things I'd like to point out is one is the town, as you guys probably know, has a way of funding the CIP now, so we should really take advantage of that and put in requests because so we can get a piece of the
Right.
pie or whatever.
So would we come onto this list, Mike, and
Yeah,
and-
we
and
could.
work on the
We
things
could
that-
email this to them once it's approved by the school.
No, but I mean, like if the committee and you and
Yeah.
me and, if we were to, identify things for the capital list, would we
You would
take
submit-
them directly right off of this list?
Yeah, and submit it to the CIP.
Yeah, okay.
And then,
So the purpose of this list is to identify for the committee
Yeah.
all of the things that potentially need to be done, and then from this list, we could, in priority order,
Yeah.
pull some of them off and put them on the CIP request.
yeah,
You
like,
should you should sit down with the administrators and make sure you guys all agree, and Mike,
Yeah.
and say, okay, where,
What are the priorities?
what's the,
Right.
what number
Right.
1 to 10?
Right, and then we would come back to the committee
And
and
make a
say, these are our
recommendation."
recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to say is Pembroke's not really on here, and that's because depending on what happens, there's already been a plan by the architects of all kinds of things that would have to happen at Pembroke if we don't build a new school. So I didn't see a need to duplicate the efforts, and I just attached their plan to the CIP.
Yeah, you just have the, Ahara review, but we have to do that no matter
Yeah,
what.
no matter what, so.
Right.
Mike, was there anything with capital improvements on fields, or is that all maintenance?
It's mostly maintenance at this time. I mean, there's been talk obviously about that turf field, and that seems to be getting really active, and looks like it is gonna happen, so.
Do we have any timing on that, or anything?
Well,
Are we
the
waiting
law
for
just,
legislation?
well, actually, the law, once it got on the docket and really got some legs, the House and the Senate really approved it pretty quickly.
Okay.
So, and now it's in conference, so now they're trying to work it out, but we're very optimistic, as is Bruce Tarr and other offices like that have been working for the benefit of us on this. Our feeling that, what I think needs to happen now is that we need to reconvene that committee, the group that we were talking to, but I think we also, as I've said to the GAA folks when they've talked to me about this, is it really does need to be a broader conversation. So
Okay.
definitely anyone who's working on fields or has interest in fields, any organization really needs to be at the table.
I guess then what we should think about when you go through this list is looking at the fields that excluding Pembroke for right now,
Yeah.
only because that's got
Yeah,
its
we
own-
don't know what's gonna happen.
We don't know
Yeah.
how that's gonna play out, but we should probably look at the existing fields that we have and determine what is required to get them up to speed, like up to a level playing field, if you will,
Yeah.
because they're just in such atrocious shape right now.
Well, this year, we have a plan to
Okay.
aerate, seed, we're gonna be adding fertilizer and sand, because if you add sand into the soil that's compacted, it helps with drainage.
Mike
And
has
that's
brought
for
in an
what
expert,
field?
all
Yeah,
of them.
All of them, we're gonna do all the fields.
All the high school.
Including the football field.
Okay.
And actually, VAA has paid for the sand the last couple of times to help us
Okay.
out.
And through Whittier, through their surplus equipment, we
Yeah.
got an aerator.
Okay.
Mike has been in consultation, and actually, the gentleman from the Georgetown Club, or the Black Swan, has been willing to act as a as a consultant. Plus, Peter Durkee has extensive experience in his previous job with growing and seeding and fertilizing fields and bringing them back to life. So I think, that we've been doing that because we want to have a plan for this. And we are working with the GAA because they have been willing to help support through funding some of this.
And the Black Swan actually let us use their equipment too,
Yes.
to do some work.
So we were very grateful to that. That's what happens in this in a community.
And that's on this maintenance schedule, right, where it says field maintenance? I mean, is that
Yeah,
what that's
yeah,
referring to?
yeah.
Yes.
And also, we talked a little bit yesterday about, and I haven't done that yet because today was kind of hectic, but about adding a pest management plan for Pembroke on there.
Okay.
I just need to ask, are there any subsurface drainage issues with regards to those fields?
That's why we need to have the
The FEMA grant,
assessment
yeah.
done, the FEMA grant.
That's the
Because that's
problem.
part
That's
of
part of the-
what will be done with that FEMA grant.
The water that just runs down
So
that
the
hill.
maintenance right now is the maintenance that you're talking about is really a temporary fix.
Well, we know that it sits it's like a bathtub.
temporary
sits
fix.
Yeah,
on a brook.
correct.
And we know that the water coming down off of the hill that has been that was for years used to flowing in a certain direction now has a building plunked in the middle of it. So we know that there are issues in the building regarding the drainage, and we know that on the fields, that the lower fields, particularly at the far end, right, Mike, down by the scoreboard end, that it's wet all the time. So we understand that if we're gonna do this right, whether we put a turf field there or we continue to invest in a new field there, we have to deal with the drainage. That's the reason for the CPC to be involved.
Yep.
Because the CPC would be able to, now with this legislation, if we make a good case, they would be able to do some of that some of their money could be used for some of the infrastructure work.
I just wanted to make sure it was on
Yeah.
the table.
Give you a
Oh,
good
absolutely.
example of it. Just this week, we broke a sprinkler head, so we dug down just 2 feet to change it, and we hit groundwater. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
not that far below
Yeah.
the surface.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mike? I don't think we vote. We're not
I
gonna
think
vote
the
on this.
purpose of this was to
More for
bring it before,
presentation.
well, bring it to before you. We are, as Mike said, working with the MSBA. There are certain things that we have to provide for them.
Yeah.
And this would be information that they would be requiring from us.
Let's not send anything to CIP though until we all get back
Absolutely.
and vote on like
yeah.
what the priorities.
Carl, since you're here, would the MSBA want want the school committee to take a formal vote on a maintenance plan as part of what we submit to them, or is it,
They'd require it.
okay,
It's part of your normal procedures.
yeah.
They would require?
No, they wouldn't.
No, they
He
wouldn't.
said they
No, it's
wouldn't.
part, yeah, it's,
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that since we've
Right.
got you. So I think it's fine if we just,
Alright.
for information.
Okay.
thanks for putting it
Thank you.
together.
Thank
Good
you,
luck this
Mike.
summer.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, Carl. Do you wanna
Sure.
come on up?
Here, let me move this closer for you.
Are you gonna need the,
No,
What
I'm
do
not
you
gonna
need?
use the.
We're not gonna-
Okay.
That's okay.
Carl's gonna give us an update of where we are on the Pembroke
Over
project.
here. I was trying to recall when I was last here, it was probably in April before we.
Yes, I think
it
was in April.
Resubmitted the.
It was right
information.
before you resubmitted, yep.
Right, right.
excuse me.
You all probably heard the news then, that the preferred option was approved
Was
by
approved.
the MSBA, at their board meeting last week.
Mhm.
So we're officially, authorized to move into schematic design, the next phase of the project. And we're continuing to develop the plans. The primary goal here is to scope out the project, develop the design well enough so that we can do a reasonably detailed cost estimate to describe the project, and get agreement with the MSBA here, because the next step is really almost you can consider a contract between the district and the MSBA, say this is what we're gonna build, this is how much it costs, and this is the schedule we intend to carry it out on.
So just to be clear, at this point, there's no hard cost number associated with the
No,
project.
their approval is about the concept. In other words, they approve the concept of building a new school as opposed to renovating the existing. They approve the concept of building on this site as opposed to some other site. But they do request that we submit information about preliminary costs at this time, so they have some idea.
Based on square footage.
You know,
and-
they have to manage their own dollars
Right.
among all the, 50 or 100 projects they have going,
Yeah.
at any one time in the state. So they have to sort of earmark, a certain amount of
Mhm.
money for each project. So they do request, even at an early stage, to know approximately what the project's gonna be.
Okay.
The design is basically evolving in the same direction that we had shown previously. I think we had a T-shaped building that we had shown you in April, and it's approximately the same location in the site. To get you oriented again, the existing school sits about here, the existing driveway comes up here, and right about here is the current teacher's parking lot. This is all wooded now, so everything that's being developed beyond this point here is all currently wooded. The notion is still that the driveway, the main driveway, continues in its general orientation now, but goes, way into the woods and circles around back. We've done a couple things to develop this. One, we've separated out a bus loop here from the car loop, which is, you know, a nice improvement over what happens today at Pembroke there. And the other significant issue in the site plan flow is the length of the driveway, in essence, the queuing distance for parents dropping off or picking up kids, particularly picking up in the afternoon, so that, you know, the front door of the building is here, so there's a much longer distance here before it would ever back up onto Elm Street, which, you know, at this point, we don't anticipate that it would. You know, that we've, even though the school is larger, there are more children, there's significantly more queuing space. And we've also expanded the parking, so there's also the option for those parents who want to pull off the road and park and walk in, or pick up their children that way. That's a possibility as well. And as we said, we sort of separated out the buses here. This is a one-way loop in that direction. This is a one-way loop in this direction here, clearly separated. The building, as we say, sort of fronts on that, and we've saved large areas of existing trees. So these areas here are basically the existing woods untouched, and in this case, literally untouched, because that's a small depression that we have to respect for the Conservation Commission. So those trees and all will remain there. But we have arranged the building in such a way that, as we say, the main entrance is here. We have some visitor parking then associated with that main entrance. We have sort of teacher parking on either end of the building, so the teachers can enter the building conveniently at either end. So even though it's sort of removed from directly in front of the building, they're still convenient to an entrance. And there's plenty of additional parking here. There's over 250 spaces here now, compared to, you know, about 100 out there today at Pembroke. So
The
for
most.
special events, for use of the fields, parking will be much more accommodating and efficient. The basic arrangement of the site is similar to what we showed back in April. Classrooms up front, the administration in the center of the building, the cafeteria and gym to the rear, so to speak. There are play areas. There's a kindergarten play area. This is the kindergarten wing here. There's a kindergarten play area. There's a large play area behind the school, and another over here adjacent to the gym and the green. And when the building comes down, this will be a green athletic field here too. So lots of recreational amenities within, you know, close proximity to the school here. We do hope to you know, minimize the amount of clearing as much as possible here to make the school still feel like a school in the woods, you know, and saving large areas of trees will help do that. I think the other thing to point out too is just for evening events, you can come into the building here to access the cafeteria, which is also has a stage as a cafetorium, so to speak. Or you can also park here and enter. There's a dedicated entrance here. So for use of either the cafeteria or evening use of the gym, there's a dedicated entrance with men's and women's rooms right there. So you could close off the rest of the school and direct people to this entrance here for special events too. So we think the site plan supports all that. The service entrance is back here, kind of away from everything and out of sight. We're still hoping to develop a sort of amphitheater because in order to accommodate a building this large, we will be doing a fair amount of grading here, and the site is not flat. There's a lot of contours, and we hope to sort of use some of those contours to actually integrate a kind of natural amphitheater into the hillside there that incorporates the woods into the curriculum. We've also, you know, thought about that in other ways too as we develop the building, but a few is just the fact that we're trying to save trees in front of the school, so all of these classrooms will be looking out at trees, not looking out at parking lot for the most part. And even back here, by keeping the tree line close to the building, once you're above the first floor, and this is a 3-story building, and the second and third floor, again, you're looking to woods, you're not looking to parking area and that sort of thing. So I think from inside the building too, and even at the ends of the corridor, we intend to have lots of glass. So when you're walking down that corridor, what you see straight ahead, basically the tree line there in both directions really. So we've thought about that, and we really want to take advantage of this site, not only sort of in the layout and design of the building, but to to integrate it into the curriculum of the school too, to make it part of the learning process. And then to show you the floor plans that go with this in a little bit of detail, we've had the opportunity to meet with administration and teachers at all grade levels now a couple times, K through 6. So we've included their input. The plans are getting a little more detailed, but as I say, the basic layout is still the same. The front door is here. This is the main lobby, has a stair and elevator to connect all the levels. The administration kind of nicely supervises that entrance. The nurse's office is here as well, and there's a conference room and all for visitors. So there may be times visitors don't have to go any further than this into the building. As we said, this is the kindergarten wing. It's the one-story portion of the building. There's nothing on top of this. And on this side is the three-story portion, and it's basically each of these pods is one grade. So in this floor, it's kindergarten, first and second, third and fourth, fifth and sixth, stacking up there. And each of the pods, the grade levels, basically has 6 classrooms, 5 of which are general classrooms, 1 of which is a special, either a sped classroom, special ed, or art, or computer room on the upper floor. So they're all organized very, very similar, and they clearly stack up. It's very economical, sort of efficient way to do that. And there's 1 set of boys and girls rooms shared by each floor there. 1 teacher's room shared just per floor as well. So the teachers have good access to a copying machine and planning space on each floor. Again, we hope that sort of is not only convenient, but encourages sort of collaboration among the grade level teachers there. And you'll notice too, there's a few widened corridor areas here that, again, we think of as instructional space, that the corridor is not just a place you pass through, but it can be a place that's used by kids as sort of a breakout area, informal or with teachers or without. And we see that actually happening today in Pembroke, even though it's not designed for that. Some kids are sitting in the corridor outside their classroom, either preparing a little presentation or working together in a small group. And we want to encourage that and support that in a little more hospitable way. Maybe build in some benches, have a whiteboard perhaps, or a projection screen that can be used sort of as multi-purpose space. And as we said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there storage for the kids' clothes and backpacks within the classroom?
The way it'll be done in kindergarten, the coats and backpacks are stored within the classrooms in cubbies. They also have their own self-contained toilet room in each classroom at kindergarten grade. But once you get to first grade and beyond, there would be lockers in the corridors. So the coats and backpacks are stored in the corridors, so it frees up space in the classroom there. I was going to point to at the end of the corridor that you can see right there's a lot of glass. We purposely moved the stair away from the end so that opens up that view to the forest. And the reason for the angle too, I sort of neglected. Maybe some people may say, why isn't this straight and right angles? Well, it's partly to work with the grading. It's partly to give the school, to break down the scale of it. It's a very large building, and it is 3 stories. So we're trying to break down the scale of the building to be appropriate to an elementary school. We're sort of following the curve of the driveway as well. And as I say, it sort of breaks down the building into readable kind of pieces. I think from the outside and the inside, you'll be able to feel this is the kindergarten wing. You sort of be able to read that geometry, that each of those blocks is a grade. And it's a way to make a more informal building. It's a very informal setting. It's not like sitting on a street, fronting a grid pattern of streets or anything. This is in the woods with very rolling topography, and it kind of influences the layout of the building as well. And it's really not much of a premium at all. When you look at it closely, everything is laid out, orthogonally. Everything's right angle. It's just these little wedge-shaped pieces that make up the difference. But everything else is perfectly sort of traditional square corners and all that. In the center of the building, as we said, the cafetorium, which does double duty both as the lunchroom and an auditorium, because there is a stage, a raised stage, backed up with the music room on this level. There's the kitchen and all the back of house sort of space there in the gymnasium. And this is that dedicated lobby that we talked about, that you could use as a public after-hours entrance, and you could lock off the school, the rest of it there. You could even actually lock it off here if it were just the gym that were being used, and you still have access to the toilet rooms. So there is a fair amount of that goes on in the evening, scouts or basketball or something, where they just need the gym and they just need access to some men's and women's rooms. Then, as we move up the building, you can see now, again, the only part that stacks is in front here. These are all one-story spaces or high one-story spaces here. The library is located on this floor. It's fairly central. It's in the middle level, second level, immediately adjacent to the stairs. So no matter what floor you're on, it's pretty readily accessed. There is a second art room and a second music room in the school because of the population. So the thought is, again, if you're on the upper levels, you'd probably use these art and music rooms. If you're on the lower levels, you'd use those art and music rooms. But the same layout, one grade and a second grade, shared teachers' room, shared toilets, and so forth. And then going up to the top level, now the only thing up here really are classrooms, starting from the stair, elevator, lobby, going back there. You notice this little indication of light green here. When you're at the third floor level, you're actually at the roof of the floor below, and we can make it so that it's a walkout situation. You can walk out to there, and we're anticipating making that a vegetated roof, which is nice for stormwater management. That we need to control. That's one of the other impacts on the abutters, not just traffic. Second was drainage, and by introducing some measures like this and some others, we're thinking about a system of pavement called pervious pavement for play areas that lets the rainwater actually go right through it, back into the ground, recharge the water, doesn't flow off. It again saves on stormwater management, and certainly we are going to improve the situation from what's there now. That no more water is going to flow off the site, and certainly we hope significantly less. To affect any abutters.
And that also contributes to the energy efficiency of the building?
It helps a little bit. It adds to the insulation. It also extends the life of the rubber roof that's underneath it too, because it's not exposed to the sun, which dries it out and breaks it out eventually over 20 or 30
for the
years.
kids to learn about it as well.
Right, so we anticipate there could be a little patio that you could come out on and just see that, or just even with some windows you can look out on it. So we put it in a visible location there. And then just quickly to give you an idea of what it might look like three-dimensionally, we have some images. One of the things to notice, there are some flat roof areas. These classrooms here, this area would be flat roof. There are a couple slope roof areas in the middle of the building, basically over the library, over the cafeteria, and over the gym. And we kind of reflect that here in these images. Here's just a quick one. So you can see over the classroom areas, it's flat roof. Over the library, this is the central lobby. The cafeteria and gym, those reddish areas are indicating a sloped roof there. This is the front entrance here. This is the library, the main lobby on each floor there. So there's an overhang, so children waiting to get picked up, if they are waiting outside, have a covered area to deal with. One of the things that you notice as we talk about each of these grade levels sort of reading as a mass unto itself, we further break down the scale by pulling out like a bay window to help, because again, it's fairly close to the road, and having just a 3-story sheer wall is not very friendly, particularly younger kids. So we're trying to introduce some elements that will help reduce the scale of the building. And one other thing that you'll notice on these renderings here, the library has a gable roof. We're also considering kind of a shed roof in the other direction here, which we think works nicer indoors. When you're in the library, you have this nice soaring ceiling focused outward to the trees and the woods beyond. But it is a little bit, less traditional, let's call it, than the gable. We're still working on resolving that and resolving, with the sort of rotunda over the main lobby as well. So that's still in progress here, but I wanted to share the same images that we shared with the building committee the other night. So that's basically where we are. There is, I should mention, a community meeting next Tuesday night. We should encourage people to attend that as well, which will be presenting very similar materials, and also just listening to concerns again, as we have in the past, and or any questions, that sort of thing. Because ultimately, we know we not only want input to help improve the design, but ultimately we need, you know, public support to endorse the project, and so we want to start that communication process as early as we can, because in the fall there will be a vote at town meeting and a vote at the ballot to ultimately approve the project. So
Is that gonna be at Pembroke?
the community meetings at the cafeteria in Pembroke
In
on
Pembroke.
Tuesday night.
7
yeah.
o'clock?
7, I think, yes. Okay. Ann?
Any questions?
And in your packet, just under superintendent's information, under item K, that's a schedule of deliverables that ties into what Carl is talking about. If you're looking at, you know, when are certain things due, you know, when decisions will be made, that's just for your information.
Our next submission to the MSBA will be in early August. So we'll be back before you sometime near the end of July, looking for your vote after the building committee has endorsed the budget and the schematic design.
Now, Carl, will we have to go back again to the facilities committee?
Yes, in
So-
September, we'll
okay.
be back in front of that
Okay.
subcommittee again, so they can sort of review things. It might be more a review of the budget, Carol, than
Oh,
a
okay.
review of the design.
Okay, okay.
Because one of the things that they need to do when they go through the project budget, they want to confirm that we understand, you know, what's eligible for reimbursement and what's not,
Mhm.
and the calculations of how they came up with their grant amount and that sort of thing.
So this is probably a redundant question, but it's just on my mind. All of that work you've done takes into account the possibility of a major snowfall and
Sure,
like we've had in
sure.
the past, and we're not gonna have those flat roofs. They're gonna withstand the weight of the
They'll
snow.
in fact, you know, there's so much sort of belt and suspenders built into the code nowadays that they even require that, you know, when you have roof drains on a low slope roof,
Uh-huh.
that you have to figure the weight of snow and ice if the drain were ever clogged
Oh, wow.
there. So, and you have to have a secondary way to relieve water if that drain gets clogged up. So there's a lot of belt and suspenders. You have to account for drifting snow.
Sure.
So if you have a wall next to a low roof, there's a snow shadow, so-called, cast by the snow drifts. The structural engineer has to take that into account.
Okay.
So,
I like that we don't have a pitch going into the driveway, so that all the snow ends up
right.
right in front of.
I
where
just
you
saw
put
those
the children.
things that,
Good
why didn't
point.
anybody think of that when they built
That's
the
a good point.
current school?
Right, right.
One question is, how do you access the service? How do the delivery trucks access the service area? I
They
didn't
would
see that.
would use that bus loop.
Okay.
And so they would come in here and back in.
Oh, in that way.
And
Okay.
It's right there.
All right.
And there are a few parking spaces back here for custodians or kitchen workers who are right there too.
Okay.
But basically, they would come in this driveway and leave
Okay.
that way.
So that's a roadway going back behind the school?
This is a drivable path.
Okay.
It'll be, at times it'll be part of the paved play area.
Uh-huh.
You won't really,
Yep.
won't read like a road, but
Okay.
it would be allowable to get a fire engine all the way around the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which probably maybe, Carl, you just might wanna mention that there's ongoing conversation about this at the building committee level. But remember the early discussions about the access road
Yep.
that came
Yeah,
in off
that's
of
right
Elm
here,
Street?
yeah.
You know, I think the current conversation is whether or not that actually would need to be developed further. That based on this configuration, particularly of the flow of the traffic and the amount of queuing space, that it may be possible to handle everything and deal with the safety issues that were of concern initially as part of the site.
Mhm.
Am I representing
Right,
that correctly?
Right. And we have a meeting, we met with all the department heads to sort of give them the same kind of informational meeting a week or so ago. We're gonna schedule individual meetings now with like the fire department, the police department, Board of Health, Conservation Commission, Building Department. So during this next month, we're gonna be busy meeting with all these officials individually as well to go over some detailed requirements. But we'll certainly be discussing the need for that secondary access connection, the police's ability to supervise the site, the water department's ability to get, water lines around the site, things like that.
And you're, right now, with the existing fields that are at Pembroke,
Yes, they're way over
I
here,
don't know,
yeah.
9,000 baseball fields are crammed in there. Those won't be those won't be touched.
Those won't be touched as
And we
part
can
of this.
develop another field where the
Right
existing
where the school is. We may even be able to get
More than
sort
one.
of two overlapping fields, you know,
Okay.
a softball field with a soccer field that overlaps the outfield
Okay.
part of it. The only thing that will be touched over there is, there's a lower kind of playground area.
Right.
That's where the new leaching field is gonna go for the school.
Okay.
Because the existing leaching field literally is like right here.
Okay.
And for us to build this, we have to relocate that first. So that actually will be the first thing done, is in that playground area. There'd be a new leaching field. The existing Pembroke would be connected to it, so that we could abandon this and proceed and
continue
build
the
that.
construction. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Carl, while you're here,
That's right.
normally I'd have a report at the end of the meetings where there's committee reports, but since you're here, it's a good time to do it at the same time.
Okay.
I didn't know we were gonna bring up the emergency access issue tonight, and that's something that I have some concerns about, and we
Mhm.
can get into that later.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
on that.
Yep. The two concerns that I have as the representative of the school committee and the town for this project, and they're just concerns at this point. One is the cost, I think, that everybody's been talking about.
Mhm.
And we'll continue to talk about, not really going anywhere with that, but just so that everybody, is aware, the school district is short on funding, lowest per pupil spending in the state. I know people probably are rolling their eyes right now when I say that back in the audience, but nonetheless, it's a legitimate fact. Being cut 168,000 and trying to make some really hard decisions as we move forward with this as to the best way to spend the limited funds that we do have. So cost is a big issue on the table, and the schedule is fast. There's some big decisions that are being asked to be made of the committee in a very short order of time. And again, I'm not going anywhere with that, other than just to put those on the table as the representative, those are really the two concerns I have at this point.
We share those, and we'll try and, be constantly aware of them as we move forward. One of the things we did talk about last time at the building committee is sustainability, just to mention how, the building can be a good investment to help lower your future operating costs, so that when you are, sort of wrangling over your annual budgets and how much should go to utilities, hopefully we can help you save some money in future utilities and maintenance by making good decisions here on materials and systems and so forth. And you can get rebates, and you can get additional reimbursement from the state for some of those items too, which makes it, especially valuable to you. So we are very conscious of that, Rob.
I think I agree with the cost issue. I mean, it's a big number. No matter what the number ends up becoming, it's a lot more than we're paying now, which is zero for a school building project. But there are two things we have to keep in mind is we need to do something to Pembroke. And you've exhausted, I don't know how many options that you guys have reviewed, but I'm guessing well over 20 plus. And really considered everything that we could possibly do there. So we need to do something, that's clear. One question that was brought up, which you answered for me maybe a month or two ago, was we've embarked on this journey with the MSBA, and they've agreed to fund us roughly 50% of our cost. And the question was, if we didn't go down this route with the MSBA, would it be possible for us to save money on the project? The root of the question is the MSBA causing us to spend a little bit more, causing us to spend any more money than we would normally have to spend if we did it on our own? And the answer is no. Well, I shouldn't say no. The answer is there's a minimal probably increase in fees. We're not talking 10 million. I don't even think it hits $1 million. If it hits a few thousand, that could be it. But if we didn't use the MSBA, we would be forced to, foot 100% of it
That's right.
ourselves.
Right.
And if we don't use the money, it will go to another community.
That's right.
And through all the MSBA meetings, Carol pointed this out. when you look at what elementary schools and what high schools cost, we are right in the ballpark of what new elementary schools cost. I'm not saying that that makes it right for us to spend that amount of money, that's
No,
not my message,
no.
but we're not spending,
It's not excessive in terms of.
we're right in the
recommendation.
range of what an elementary school costs.
And remember too, the building is smaller than it could be.
That was
The maximum
correct.
allowable for this number of students. So, and that's certainly reflected in the cost too. So, again, we've been aware of that. We've been trying to keep to the lower side of anything that's, we're not trying to maximize and make the building as expensive or as big as it could be.
How does it take into account, I don't know what the growth trends in Georgetown have been?
We had to do they had to do a population survey right at this is one of the first things that they did. They
Okay,
15-year projection.
oh, okay.
MSBA looked at what our historic growth was and what they projected our future growth to be, and you and the administrators had some input into that.
So that this, we're projecting that this is a building that's gonna meet the town's needs for a minimum the next 15 years?
That's what we're projecting.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thanks
But
very
then
much.
No,
does
that-
anyone have any
that was really it.
questions? So I think we at our meeting in July is when we're going to vote on
Right.
vote on all
preferred
of
schematic.
the preferred schematic design.
We'll have the design updated, actually early in July, given to then cost estimators who are gonna work on it during the month of July. We're gonna get back that information near the end of the month, spend a little time reconciling it, meet with the building committee and present our recommendation then. And then shortly after, I don't know if Michelle or
Michelle and
Ellie
Ellie
have been in touch with you about
about-
their schedule
yeah.
and your, suggested meeting dates for you
Yeah.
as well. Good.
Carl, thank you.
Okay, thanks
Thanks
very
for
much.
coming up for
Thank you.
such a
Thank you.
short meeting.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. Okay, moving right along. Next up is the superintendent's report.
Okay, so I do have a couple of things. The first thing I wanted to do, and I did point it out in your notes, is, we had our middle school invention convention crew come and impress us with their invention. So I just wanted to close that loop and follow up and let you know that there were 20 teams that competed. There were basically 6 awards that were given out, first, second, and third place, honorable mention, and then most likely to be marketed and best use of technology. And if you remember, I think the students said that they got most likely to be marketed last year. This year, they received honorable mention. And I really would like to, once again, commend the advisor and the students, Jacob Boudreau, Luke Caruso, Michael Kelly, Stephanie Maglio, Mikhail Parry, Ariana Natoli, Patrick Shepard, and Darian Radzikowski. And Megan Scarborough is their advisor. And I think it's great for the public to know that these kids really performed well. Again, we've only had a team for a couple of years, and they've placed both years. So I think that's a great statement for them. Before we get to the professional development plan, there were just a couple other quick things I wanted to point out. I wanted to make sure that you knew that the Georgetown CPAC, who is our parent advisory group for our special education parents, and actually Pam has been the chair of that, which she's no longer going to be now that she's on the school committee, but I know she'll continue to be involved. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that the CPAC recognized 2 of our staff members with their Shining Star Awards, Dawn Resendez, who is an art teacher at the Pembroke School, and Lisa Mascara, who is the teacher for our Compass program at the middle school. Next year, Lisa is going to be our BCBA for the middle high school because she has that certification, and she's actually been serving in that capacity, helping us out this year when we've had situations there. But she has, while she was a full-time teacher. So I just want to congratulate Dawn and Lisa and all of the people who were nominated. It was not an easy decision for the CPAC Board of Directors. There was a lot of great information shared on the kind of comments that parents, made, and Pam recently did a press release that incorporated some of those, and it really is a touching evening and very heartwarming to see, so much respect and affection for teachers who do make a difference in the lives of some of the students that, need that extra TLC. You've heard the state champs are the Georgetown baseball team. Very exciting.
First-
Do they have
For-
a blue
well,
sign like
they'll put,
football?
there will be a sign like the football. George, I think it was 2000, the football team,
2002.
2002 or something, were recognized as the Super Bowl champions. But this is the first time we've actually had a team that went all the way through the tournament and got to the end and ultimately were state champs. So
And had a very decisive
and
win.
very decisive,
Yeah.
11-1. It was actually very, very interesting today because this morning at one of they had a ceremony at the middle high school where it was like kind of a pep rally, but it was also where they recognized all of the teams over the last couple of years that had earned recognition through the Cape Ann League and or state level, their finals or whatever. I think there were no less than 10 banners that were on the floor that are going to be hung in the gym. But it was great because the kids were there, the students that were on those teams had a chance to carry their banner across the floor and receive, claps and, recognition for it. And, the coach and three of the three seniors actually were on Beverly Enos's Spotlight Georgetown, so they were awesome. And we did have to do some last minute planning, but literally the next day after they won but Beverly was very flexible and she was great. They really enjoyed working with her, and she sent me an email, said they were awesome. So congratulations to the coach and the players.
And this is his first year as coach.
This is Justin's
So
first
that's
year as
great.
the head
That
coach.
is-
So now
that's
I'm
great.
saying,
Yeah,
now what do
set
you
the
got?
bar pretty high.
What do you got?
Next year. We
and
moving
then,
up a division?
Yeah, and then no, I don't think that's the plan. But the other thing that I did want to pass along to you, and I know I sent you an email, but I just want to update you. Unfortunately, at the middle high school, the whole district actually suffered a loss of a very well respected and cherished teacher, Tesla Chance, who was a history teacher at the high school. On next Wednesday afternoon, there will be a celebration of life and career that the school is going to be putting together. It will be at 3:00 in the auditorium. And we plan to put it out on Facebook. We'll put it on the website. I did send a Connect Ed message today, just closing out the year, and I mentioned it in case there were any parents, whose students wanted to come or who they themselves want to come. It's a closure kind of situation because it is a real loss to the community and it is necessary for everybody to come together. So, Tess was a very important member of our community, and I just wanted to make you aware in case any of you want to attend the ceremony, and it's going to be next Wednesday at 3:00. Okay, lastly, Julie, maybe you can come on up. Julie and the administrators, we've all been kind of working on this project.
I noticed they're showing a lot of support tonight.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
remember
that. It was also important as part of community building for them to be able to
It
celebrate
was.
with their staffs.
Yeah,
And
of
so
course.
Julie and I are taking one for the team
We
tonight,
are, that's
and
right.
we
You get a buy on one of the
yeah,
other.
that's right. She's gonna we'll make it up to Julie at another point. But Julie is submitted for your information and discussion, if you have questions or comments. The district's professional development plan for next year. Also included is a budget, so you can take a look at the various initiatives and the source of funding. You'll see we're very, very creative in how we put our items together, and sometimes we take a little from here and a little from here and write a grant for something very specific. But I think, Julie's done a lot of thinking about, what really do we need to do and we're looking at a 3 and 5 year plan for professional development and training linked to our strategic plan. So, Julie, if there's anything particular that you want to point out and any questions or comments from the committee? Would you like,
Is there anything, I looked in here and just saw
would you like to highlight if
it
there's
was,
anything?
or if there's anything that you wish that you could do that
Oh,
would.
there's so much.
Is there
I don't know if
anything
you
that's a
wanna-
real miss this year that,
For next year that we
for next
can't
year
do?
that we should
Next
think
year,
about?
I was really happy that we were able to bill in the math course. I don't know if you're able to take a look at that. And I was very excited. And offering a math course like that, as specific as it is, it does cost quite a bit of money. And so we went into a regional partnership, which was something that I was really excited to work on with Newburyport and Triton. And we were able to bring all of our middle and high school teachers together to look at the Common Core, the new math standards, and to look at the math tracks and how we'll be offering math at the high school, at the middle and high school. And so I think we are working in that vein, and I'm happy to do that type of work so that when we do meet together, we are able to offer more to teachers. And I think that for me was a great experience, and so I'm hoping to do more like that. Yeah, obviously, you always would like more money. I'd love to bring. I try to get the best people that I can find, people that I think are key, solid, strong people to come in and help us with the work that we have to do. We have 2 major initiatives with the ELA frameworks and the math frameworks, and I think when we start to look at the new teacher evaluation tool, I would like to have some funds to help support the administration and program development around that.
Right.
Looking at software to help support the many changes that will come along with the new teacher evaluation tool. I think that would be really helpful.
I think one of the things that would be nice to have more money. I mean, we're going to try to figure out how to do something this summer because we absolutely have to do it. With the new standards and the need to have teachers actively engaged and involved in looking at those standards, looking at current curriculum, identifying gaps, putting new things in, and really making sure there's a complete alignment from pre-K all the way through 12 does require participation of teachers. And generally, if you're asking teachers to come in the summer, there's an expectation that they'll be paid. And our teachers, believe me, don't ask for a lot. I mean, they may work a 600 or 700, they make less than $20 an hour is what basically, we're providing. But they're very engaged and want to be very engaged. So I think we need to get into and Julie's gonna try to write it into the grant if we can, but we need to get some steady stream of funding that could be available to commandeer groups of teachers that can really sit together. So this summer, we're actually planning to do it for, I think we said 2 of each grade, pre-K through 5, and they're going to basically, we're soliciting interest right now. We've been actually pretty excited about the level of the interest. And then we're also looking at the English curriculum alignment and programming at the middle school, because we've identified that we want to shore that up. So actually all the English teachers want to come in, the middle school English teachers want to come in and do some work in the summer. We're talking, 3 to 5 days or a week. It's a start. Because during the year, it's very hard to do that.
Yeah,
With just the whole, process of just being busy, just teaching and the after-school programs and things that teachers are involved in. Many of our teachers are getting master's degrees as part of the requirement through the state, so they're taking courses. It's just difficult to find the time. So the summer is the best time, but we have not had the luxury in our professional development budgets to be able to identify that kind of money. So that's something
That's definitely something I would move towards, in establishing committees that would meet monthly to support any kind of changes or to bring in new ideas for curriculum. Sometimes other districts will do it as a SARC, or a subject area review committee. Other districts, I've participated in those before, or AP vertical team. Some other districts run teams like that as well. The other thing I was thinking of, Ian, our science frameworks are under review, so that will
Not
come.
at Pembroke.
Well,
I'm just
statewide.
kidding.
Statewide.
Yeah, we will have to do
Statewide.
some.
So we will have to forecast for that
Okay.
and make some plans to build in additional supports for the new science expectations. And those should be out. They're really pushing to have them out within the next year and a half. And they've started to do some presentations on the work that they're doing.
And
So
the reason I ask is just so that when we start to look at putting our budget together, we've got a phenomenal program for this year, but next year we know we're going to need to do more, so we just need to be cognizant of that.
right, and you want to
We're
continue the
going
work
into
that
it.
you do. You want to
we
be
wanna
able to
build
sustain,
on it.
right, and then add in those things that we know are coming.
Does have any questions about the plan?
I'm happy that you like it.
Good job.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Right.
Julie.
So we need to vote on this to approve it.
Right.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the professional development plan for 2012-2013 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Julie.
you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Julie.
very much.
Have a great summer.
Thank you.
I'll be around.
We're
all around.
Yeah, I know, but we don't see you for
Well,
months.
yeah, you know, that's right. We're not gonna be meeting.
It'll be
this summer
quieter.
anyway.
It'll be
It'll be, well,
quieter.
the pace is definitely different. Absolutely, we agree.
Okay, any questions on the superintendent's information for the committee?
And I just wanted to point out item C. Oh no, it's not item C, that's not one yes it is, it's item C. As you've been following the saga of the accreditation, right? We were required by June 1st to, respond to the questions from the NEASC. And we are really down to one item, and it's the building. So you'll notice that the special report,
Yep.
it focuses pretty exclusively. The only thing they really wanted us to do is provide a detailed response on the status of the proposed construction project, including timelines and sources of funding, which will alleviate the identified needs of the high school's facility. So I just want to connect that to what we're hearing about the upcoming Pembroke project.
It's a pretty short letter.
It's a pretty short letter, but it's about it's what they needed. They just wanna know that things are continuing to move forward, whether it ultimately gets approved or not. They really do feel that we will not be removed from accreditation warning unless, there's some attention to what the facility needs. So it's just, just wanted to make sure that you saw that in your packet.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Moving right along, line item transfers. Oh, you know what, I did have one question. Negotiating subcommittee. I thought this was Rob. Is it Barbie and I that are doing negotiating together?
I was doing negotiations.
You
For
were?
next year.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. That was my only question.
I think Rob might be the alternate.
Yeah, and maybe I was just
That's
confused.
right. I
Okay,
think Rob's the
I just
alternate.
wanted to make sure we're all set there. Okay. Okay, so the line item transfers are self-explanatory, and it looks like Julie is just transferring to cover balances and accounts, because we can't deficit spend, so Julie makes transfers to make sure that we're in accordance with what stands. The chair will entertain a motion to approve line item transfers numbered 229 through 266.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up is subcommittee reports. Budget and finance. Anything?
No.
You guys probably have to have a
We
meeting.
have it, yeah, we should have
Yeah.
a meeting.
We do need a
Because you need to
meeting.
talk about athletic fees.
Yes, Chris asked me
And
actually.
Chris asked me that too.
Yeah, so I think, prior to the July meeting,
Yeah.
because that's year-end closeout as well.
Right.
We do need to have a meeting. We want to talk about the revolving accounts, and we've
Oh.
actually, FinCom is requesting some information about that as well.
Okay.
So we want to
So you
be
need
sure to have a
athletic
meeting.
fees and revolving accounts.
Right.
Okay.
And year-end
Year-end.
year-end closeout. And actually, we have to talk about how we balance the budget.
And how we're balancing the
Because
budget.
remember, we have the utilities, outstanding question on the utilities at this point.
That was taken out of the budget, which we
That's
can't
right.
fund out of the revolving accounts.
Yes, that's true.
So that's Rob and I.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can shoot you an email with the issues, and that way you
Okay.
can talk about them.
All right.
Or the issues as I see them, it's up to you guys.
We should do that over the next,
I'd say within the next couple weeks.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on what you decide on in a July meeting, we
Yeah.
have to do it in anticipation, and you might need more than one meeting for that.
Right.
The new business manager is coming on board July 1, and, Julie's having some surgery, but I think we just have to coordinate with, who do we need at the meeting, and, when does that need to happen?
Governance, Barbie.
governance as well, we should have a meeting, right? We have some things.
You should probably,
Yes, I think, yes, because we have to do a formal, it's not on the item tonight, is it? We're talking about that policy on the service dog.
Right.
Remember adding that
Yeah.
second part in?
yeah.
And I don't think that's on here, right?
And you might
So-
want to
No.
establish what you're going to review. I know 2
That's
years
how we did it,
ago,
yeah.
when I was on that subcommittee, we established what sections we were going to review each year. So usually there's just one section that you go through.
Right.
Yeah, we can pull that out because we pretty much did. I
A
think
lot,
it's, you
yeah,
know, it's
we
either the
went through it.
IJ, the longer
Yeah.
ones, yeah.
Okay, negotiating, there's nothing new to report since last time. We had, in executive session, approved the tentative agreement. And now the union and our attorney are working through the language, of the agreement itself. So we need to vote on that. But I don't wanna vote on it till everyone has a copy of it and can actually read through it and make sense of it. So I don't know that we have we don't have a timing on that yet.
Well, they're hoping to do it by July 1.
Yep,
Where the draft would be available, we'd have a chance to review it.
yep.
And then, shortly after that, we may have, depending on when we're meeting again in July,
We may have to
we
have a
may
special
have to
meeting.
just have a very quick special meeting. You read it over, whatever questions you have, we answer them. And then you literally, sign, you all, I think that's how we did it in the past, Ann,
Yeah.
right? Everybody signs the back page
Right.
of the contract.
All right, school building committee, I'm sorry, Rob, you just talked about that.
Did it.
There's one thing that was brought up that I thought was kind of interesting. There was some question that there was a promise made for the use of the Pearly School. And I believe that might have been a misinterpretation of the fact that the Pearly School was a gift to the town, or was deeded to the town or something.
There is a deed.
So what we had to do was we had to research what the deed restrictions were on the future use of the Pearly School. Right now, it's used for education, and we wanted to be sure that if we didn't use the entire school, if there were alternative uses for it,
Such as for a senior center.
for anything. And so there's been no promise or anything other than making sure that there were alternative uses available for it, if there was excess space there.
So that's been researched
Yeah,
and it's,
Yeah,
or it's in
Carol's gone,
process?
we did
It has
that.
to be, it has to continue to be used for educational purposes.
Educational purposes.
Oh, it does?
Yep.
Okay.
Which we would have our preschool programs there.
So, but it's just been something we just had to research with the excess space. What are we gonna do with it?
Sure.
But, so
And
that's.
that-
the
and
excess
that-
space though has no, as long as there's educational, education going on in the building, we can then use the additional space for like a senior center
That's our
or.
Yeah.
understanding.
Oh,
We
good.
Yeah.
can,
It's,
Okay.
it's, the opportunity is available.
right, it's
But
possible.
it's-
It's
exactly.
possible, okay, good.
But it's not to say that we're,
No, no, no.
We're doing
But
I
even
know,
if,
it's-
even
we're just talking
if
about.
it
Yeah.
were to be a senior center, just as one idea, one could argue that it's still involved with the idea of
Yeah.
education, you know.
Absolutely.
You could-
but there's
yeah.
been no funds secured for it. There's
Oh,
been
no.
no thought of anything other than we just want to make sure that we could do something with that space.
Right.
For
Okay.
other, Ann, public relations.
Oh, yeah, public relations.
I think we need to get that one going.
Mhm.
All right.
So, just to get an action item on that, we would probably have Laura contact Pam and Rob and would get a date and time and post the meeting and we can start.
Boom.
Yep.
Good.
So, and we'll just continue to do that through the summer, whatever your availability is.
That one's sooner the better too.
Okay, All Sports Boosters fundraiser. They,
There's a
Evelyn
note.
Chickering came to us, I think last fall, last winter, and asked about approval for a fundraiser to sell the cards.
The proposal's in the
And
packet.
we had said, yes, that's fine. But things got busy with fundraising, things got busy for her, and it was decided that they would do it fall instead. So we had approved it, and we approve all fundraising, so we thought we would reapprove it to be done in the fall. And we appreciate them not doing it when there was so many other fundraisers going on. And we do appreciate that courtesy. So, what I'd like to do is just re-vote that we're approving it so she can do it in the fall, as presented.
Okay.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the fundraising for the All Sports Boosters to sell gift cards during the 2012-13 school year, as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. next up on new business is the new pre-calculus textbook approval. Hopefully you all had a chance to read it and do a few problems. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the new pre-calculus textbook titled Pre-Calculus with Limits A Graphing Approach by Ron Larson as presented.
I started to sweat when you started talking.
So moved.
I second.
Barbie's moving that right along. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the school store stipend approval. And this is something that we handle every year.
For some reason, this one got away from us,
Yeah.
and she went to put her paperwork in for her stipend, and
And it just hadn't been approved.
the letter hadn't been, so it's really a formality. When you see the contract, you'll notice there are positions that are listed in a section of the contract. This particular one, we've been doing side letters. It's now going to be in the contract in the next round, but rather than open the entire contract for something, we've set up a series of side letters, and this is just a formality, so this woman can be paid her stipend. She did the work.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the school store stipend of $2,500 for the period of September 1st, 2011 through August 31st, 2012 as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Motion carries. The acceptance of a donation, and again, we are immensely grateful for all the people that donate to us.
Very.
This is a donation to the Pearly Reading Program from the proceeds of a recently published book sale. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the donation from Mrs. Van Galen to the Pearly School Reading Program with gratitude.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the summer meeting schedule. Typically, we meet during the school year every second and fourth Thursday of the month. In the summer, we try to shorten that, unless there's a lot going on, but right now it seems like we'll be able to get by with this meeting this month. We may need a special meeting for the contract review, but we don't know a date for that yet, so we'll just have to play that one by ear. But we don't have enough to have a meeting in 2 weeks to actually go through a lot.
Is there the possibility of an extra meeting because of the building?
That is going to be, right now, what we're looking at is having it on the 26th.
Yeah, so I think you should have your meeting on the 26th.
Right, so we're looking at July 26th, which will cover the the school building committee.
It'll also help us with year-end closeout
And it
of
will
the
help us
budget.
with the whole financial year-end issues that we'll have. And then what is going to happen between now and the 26th is I believe school building committee will be going to the Board of Selectmen before our meeting on the 26th to present everything. So I would suggest that we all attend that so that we can get that firsthand information before we vote on the 26th.
So we need to go to that meeting to get the information.
Yes.
They're not
date's
gonna
not
gonna
announced yet.
provide that for you, Ann? They're not coming and giving you a presentation?
Well, we have to vote on the 26th.
Right,
So
so,
we don't have a meeting before the 26th.
yeah, okay, got it. So when was the Board of Selectmen meeting?
I
You
need
don't-
to
you
verify
don't know.
that date.
Okay, okay.
Michelle and Ellie sent me an email and I neglected to print it out.
I thought you meant before the meeting, like they were gonna go to them first and then come to us. So,
No,
okay,
no,
so they're
the Board of Selectmen is gonna have a meeting and I believe everything will be presented at that meeting.
Okay.
And then we follow with our regular meeting either a week later or a few days later, I'm not
So,
sure.
and if one of us isn't here, I won't be in town that week.
Yeah,
The week
that's,
of the 26th?
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the other reason we have to deal with
I
everyone's
will.
summer schedule, so.
Right.
As long as everyone,
As long as you have a quorum.
As long as
Yep,
there's 3 of
okay.
us. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah.
And so we can do the 26th, and then the 30th is usually a tour of the school buildings.
Of August.
I'm also not here on the 30th.
Yeah, and I'm not,
Of August?
Yes.
yeah, and
okay.
I'm not here on the 30th either.
You're not. Okay,
No.
okay.
Hmm.
Are you
Well-
around? Are you here? Yeah.
Yep.
Are you here?
I'm-
Okay.
yeah.
So you think
All
you can do it
right,
on
yeah,
the
so we'll do it
30th?
on the
All right,
30th.
okay.
So the chair will entertain a motion to designate July 26th and August 30th as the summer school committee meeting dates.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion?
Oh, okay, who's going to determine which committee member goes to what school? I'll figure that out.
Flip a coin, state your case.
Yeah,
Pick the
if
one
you have a
pick
preference,
the one
let
that
us
you wanna
know.
go to. Yeah, just let Carol know where,
If you have a
where you
preference.
guys
Just,
wanna go.
what happens at those school building tours? What's,
You walk through and you see that the schools are ready to be opened. Go
Okay.
through all the maintenance that Mike and his crew have done, any improvements that we've made.
okay,
And then
And then
there's
you have a chance at the meeting to just give a little summary, you know,
okay.
what you saw. And
if there are any, like last year we bought, we spent a fair amount of money on technology, and some of the technology was already in place, so you got to see that,
Okay.
things like that.
So we'll do the walkthroughs prior to the meeting?
Prior to the 30th?
that's
Like-
generally what we do. We usually have I think
Well,
we do the
last time
walkthroughs
we
from
did it
6 to
right.
6 to
That
7.
evening, right.
That
6 to
evening.
6 to 7, and then we have we have a regular board meeting
Okay, we have the
on,
meeting. Okay.
From 7 to whatever.
yeah. So Rob, you would need to chair
Occasionally
that
it's
meeting.
well.
So that would be the walkthrough, I'm sorry, just backing up, so the walkthrough you're talking about would be the 29th, the evening
No, it would be the
before?
30th.
30th
30th
At
from
6.
6 to
at
7.
6 o'clock.
All right, okay,
And then we'll have the meeting after.
Yep.
okay.
And then meeting at 7.
7.
And then you sit here and you say, I went through
Right.
Pearlie, and this is what I saw. I went through Pembroke, I went through middle high school. And then whatever else is on the agenda. Okay, we have a,
There was a second.
there was a
that
second.
the discussion.
And we discussed, any further discussion?
Wait a minute,
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. One other, while we're talking about calendars, Julie Lavecchia sent me a note saying that we have, a warrant, the final warrant of the year, which for us, the end of the year is June 30th, is due to Town Hall on July 11th. So she's gonna be busy preparing that, and we need to get our 3 signatures on that, by the 11th. I don't know when she is gonna have it ready, so is everyone around that week?
When is the 11th?
It'll be the 9th or 10th, I'm guessing.
Yeah, she usually has it.
I'll be home on
Which week?
I'll be around.
July 9th and 10th.
9th and 10th, yes.
We don't, I mean, it's just a matter of signing it, but I just wanna let everyone know, she'll be asking for,
Yeah.
she'll be, busily putting that together.
So so
I'll be around.
I'll be
Okay.
I'll be around too.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'll
we're
be
all
around
around
too.
that
so
week.
that shouldn't be a problem. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The appointment of the school committee secretary for FY13, Laura. Laura has continued to agree to be our school committee secretary for this upcoming school year. So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Laura Markarian as school committee secretary from July 1, 2012 to June 30th, 2013 as presented.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Congratulations, Laura.
Laura.
Thank
you
you.
for setting up again.
Appreciate it.
Appointment of the Title IX coordinator for the 2012-13 school year. Joan Laporto, who is our new business manager, has not yet started, has agreed to serve as our Title IX coordinator for the upcoming school year.
And just so you know, she in previous positions that she's held, she has been the director of human services, human
I should mention
Resources.
Human resources. So she's had extensive training in these areas and actually has,
good.
handled full departments just focused on this. So that's one of the actually one of the nice things about having Joan come on board, other than just being the business manager, she does have an extensive background in this. So when I spoke to her about this, she said, I'd be happy to do it. So I feel like we're not just giving her the job, that she really comes well prepared, and
She
I
has
think will bring
experience in it.
something
Yeah.
important to the job.
So we have yeah. So the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Joan Laporto as the Title IX coordinator for 2012-2013 school year as presented.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're gonna talk about the 3 policies that are in here, but there's just one other thing that I wanna move up ahead. Actually, 2 things.
About the PTA motion.
Oh, 3 things. Moving right along. The first one is a donation that the PTA has given us. They support us in so many ways, and
Very
it,
generous.
they're unbelievably generous and just do so much for us. And they have given us a donation to each school in the amount of $2,000. Pearlie, Pembroke, the middle school, and the high school will each receive $2,000 from the PTA.
And this is in addition to everything
And-
else they've done. This is an additional donation.
Wow.
So, for that, we are incredibly grateful.
Absolutely.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the donations to the Pearlie, Pembroke Middle, and High School in the amount of $2,000 per school from the Georgetown PTA.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That's a lot of hard work.
It's a tremendous amount of work.
Every
and-
dollar does.
And it does unbelievable things for our schools. Next, you saw a note in your packet from Sullivan Nuttall talking about a case that we had asked them to represent us in between us and another city regarding a special education matter. They are unable to represent us, and they've provided us with an alternative, which, based on Carol's recommendation and discussion, we'll be proceeding with using. And I just bring it up so that you guys know that they're our preferred attorney, but because there's a conflict, and then our regular attorney, there's a conflict with her as well. They found someone that they feel would be extremely appropriate for us to use. So if this proceeds, we'll be using them.
Yeah, so you need to take a vote on this because then that
Right.
authorizes us to contact this
Yeah.
particular attorney and he's ready to go. He's just waiting for the authorization.
So the chair will entertain a motion to, to retain the firm of Stoneham, Chandler, and Miller, LLP, out of Boston, as
Okay.
presented by Sullivan, Nuttall, and McAvoy.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next up is, once again, executive session minutes. We reviewed these last time, and there was a further question about our redaction and what we included and did not include. So these were reviewed again, and we included, we unredacted the session of the purpose of the meeting, as well as all of the votes. So what I would like to do is re-approve these for release, as long as everyone's comfortable with that. What's important to understand is, just so that everyone knows, because we're not all executive session experts, the purpose of executive session is to discuss matters which we can't discuss in regular session, really for confidentiality reasons. They're pending litigation, they're personnel matters, they're negotiating strategies. Those are typically our big three. So that's what these minutes are about. In many cases, these minutes will never be released unredacted if they relate to a personnel matter, because the purpose is, it defeats the purpose of having a lawful executive session.
Right.
Negotiating strategy, we're able to release those minutes from not the current teacher's contract, because that isn't all completely done at this point, but the one that we did 3 years ago. We can release those. If we've had any terminations, which we've had to discuss in executive session, chances are we'll never release those, because they, talk about the issue,
Confidential
the
personnel
people, and it's a
matters.
confidential personnel matter, as well as any litigation that's going on as well. And we have spoken to our attorney and been given that advice. So the chair will entertain a motion to release the executive session minutes as presented with necessary redactions.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I think, does that cover everything? The Sullivan Nuttall letter? Okay. All right, then I also included, because I think this is important, because a lot of questions come up out of this, and it just because unclear, were the three policies that outline what we're supposed to do as a committee, and what we can and can't do, because I know, just in talking to people, they'll say, why can't, we use this field at the school, or why isn't the school open for this, or why can't, kids do this? Unfortunately, that's not our call, that's Carol's call.
It's administration.
So, what I thought, I just wanted to go through this because it's kind of interesting just to understand what we can do. The primary responsibility is to establish purposes, programs, and procedures that are going to produce the best educational achievement needed by our students. And the committee fulfills these responsibilities by primarily functioning as a legislative body to formulate and adopt policy, and by selecting a chief executive or an executive officer to implement policy, and that's Carol. So that's the line there, just so that we're all, clear on that. And that's BA. And then the other, on BCA, there are just a couple points I just wanted to highlight. And then when there's questions, feel free to jump in. As a school committee member, our basic function is to be policymaking and not administrative. And each member is one of a team and has to abide by and carry out all decisions once they're made. And what's different for the school committee from other elected officials, and I didn't understand this for a while, but Mike Gilbert explained it, is your power comes from the committee, not from the individual. So your responsibility to the public is through the committee, not as an individual, because the power rests with the committee as opposed to an individual,
Right.
which is kind of interesting. I didn't understand that for a while.
Was that because you're thinking because people elected you?
Because you're an elected
they
official.
feel that you are directly responsible
Ex-
to do what it is they'd like you to do.
Exactly.
And would
Because-
that work the same for the Board of Selectmen?
I don't know that. I don't know how their policies are set up,
Just
but my
curious.
sense would be the same.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to if you have a mayor, they have the typical responsibility to their constituency. Let's see. Then we have to recognize and support the administrative chain of command and refuse to act on complaints as an individual outside of the administration. Which is tough because we all have kids in the schools, so when you go in, if you have an issue with the school, we just have to make sure that we follow that chain of command, like you go, like anyone normally would. You go see the teacher, if that doesn't work, you go see the principal.
Mhm.
Or the department head,
Department
head
head.
or principal, depending on what school you're in, then the principal, and so on and so forth. And that's the chain of command that everyone should follow, although you'll find that even if you're not on this committee, people will just go right to Carol with an issue, as opposed to going through that.
And then I cycle them back, but,
Yeah. Well, I think people just aren't informed.
Exactly. I think
Right,
that's-
They're confused. and they don't
Exactly.
know, so that's-
Yeah, yeah, that's what I do, I help
Lead them
them,
in the right
I help
direction.
them go in the right
Right.
direction.
Let's see, and then a committee member in relations to other fellow committee members should not make statements or promises of how she or he will vote on matters that will come before the committee. And make decisions only after all the facts on the question have been presented and discussed. So, if we're gonna talk about, what color we're gonna paint the new Pembroke school, that has to come before the committee. I can't say, I really want I want it to be painted pink because it's my favorite color. And then, so I have that conversation with someone and they say, well, I really want it to be orange. And then carry that on outside of the meeting. You can't, that's really deliberation.
Right, or you call Rob and you
and-
call Barbie and you get three people to kind of agree off line that they're gonna go for pink. That would be
Right.
considered inappropriate
Absolutely.
So,
and working outside of the committee.
outside
Uh,
of that. You can certainly you can certainly have a discussion, but you can't formulate an opinion or let them know how you're gonna vote on something. Like if I have a question for Rob about the school building project, and I say, what kind of exterior materials are they gonna use on the building? He can say they're gonna use brick or they're gonna use clapboard. That's factual.
You're talking
and
about
that's-
facts.
Right,
just facts.
exactly. If I say, are you gonna vote for clapboard or brick? Because I heard Pam really wants clapboard, but I want brick, that's that line.
Well, or she can't call Rob and say, I really try to
Uh,
force him
to
to follow her opinion.
Right. Use of electronic communications between school committee members. A quorum this doesn't even go to electronic communication. As a quorum, it's 3 members. So anytime three of us are in public or discussing anything, that's a violation of open meeting law unless it's posted. There are times when you're gonna run into each other, and that.
If it's a chance meeting, that's not a problem.
Not a problem. There are times where you're gonna have, three of us are gonna have kids on the same sports team or be in band together. It's entirely possible, but you shouldn't allow for anyone to believe that you're conducting business outside of the school committee, at those meetings. But going back to the electronic piece, deliberation by a quorum of members constitutes a meeting, and if we start emailing back and forth, that becomes a violation of open meeting law. Pretty much, I think the first sentence of the third paragraph sums it up. We should only use electronic messaging for housekeeping purposes, such as, can we move the date of the meeting, or I can't go to the meeting, I lost my packet, or can someone explain to me this, what's going on with revolving accounts? I don't understand this. Things like that. So does anyone have any?
I think they think, and just to make sure for the new members, that the bottom paragraph talks about any email that you send on school committee business should be copied to Laura.
Great.
Okay.
Copy to Laura, and also try very hard only to use your school committee email, because I was explaining to
all
Pam,
the time.
they can, if there's ever an issue and they find that you've been using your personal email, they can subpoena it. So they can find the email that you sent to your accountant with your tax information. They can find email you sent to your son to remind him to bring his science homework home. Anything. That's all discoverable.
So, in terms of, you sent out an email to us saying to review the packets, get your questions answered before the meeting, and I wrote you back and I said, okay, these are where my questions are, who do I contact? That's fine.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah,
And
that's
then-
Because it's
oh, yeah,
one-on-one.
And then those people that I emailed with my questions, that's not school committee business per se, because it's not with the committee. It's
Exactly.
with people, like I sent Carol
Yep.
an email asking her a question so that I would be informed for the
Yep.
meeting. Okay.
I mean, it
Just
is,
try
it is
to-
school committee business, but it's not you're not. it's not
Deliberating.
We're not
I'm
talking-
trying to gather information so that I can be prepared.
right.
Okay.
And just copy Laura on that, so
Copy
that's
Laura.
always.
That's-
I'm still learning that.
But what can't happen, so let's say, we'll just follow your example, so you responded back to Ann. If you had responded to all, that is not appropriate. You just responded right, you did the right
Just to
thing.
Ann.
You responded to
Okay.
Ann. But whereas the committee can interact with me, I can interact with you, that's not gonna be a problem. If I send something all out to you and you respond to me, that's fine, but again, we can't.
If I reply all, then that's
That's right.
starting to the deliberation
Yeah. So
process.
pretty much
Right.
don't reply
Okay.
all unless it's
Yeah.
like we have to change the meeting date or we're changing the location.
Okay.
Or remember to pick up extra information from Laura.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Okay, I think we don't need an executive session
I
tonight.
did.
We do.
Does anybody else have any
Yeah,
questions?
oh, sorry.
on
Yep,
those?
go
No, that's
ahead.
all right, because I
Yeah.
did have some. On the issue of talking with another member
Yep.
outside of the committee.
Yep.
Where I get confused is when this issue came up in another committee and asked Mike Farrell to verify with town council, if talking with a person outside violated open meeting law. The answer from the town council was no, it does not. But that it's not a good thing to do, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I heard that, and from that moment on, it's been confusing to me as to, clearly you can't meet with somebody to start to make decisions, starting to set an agenda, but to get to with somebody to just talk.
You shouldn't share opinion. If you're talking factual, like, okay, like what kind of window are they using, single or triple pane on the new school? Things like factual is fine, but when you start sharing
As
opinions,
soon as you say like, I think this and I think that and we should do this and that sort of stuff, that's
Well, let's-
deliberate.
it's not a clear cut
That's-
violation,
That's right.
but
It's
it's
correct.
really not appropriate.
Not appropriate.
appropriate, right?
Because you're having, I mean, essentially you're starting the conversation that belongs at the committee level.
Let's say that you and Pam, because you're gonna set up a new committee. Let's say you wanted to meet and just have a, you know, a little strategy session, you know, sort of how are we gonna get this done, blah, blah, blah. The point is, why wouldn't that be done in a subcommittee format? Right? So, in other words, the
Why wouldn't
reason
you
to
want
do
both?
that would be questionable, right? Because that's the kind of thing you would discuss. If you said, okay, let's do that, you're doing the public's business. George used to say that all the time. Your job as a school committee member is to do the public's business in public. So if you're going to set up a strategy to come up with a communication plan or an approach to deal with public relations, that would be an appropriate thing to do, and the better thing to do would be to put it in a subcommittee format where the two of you met with me or whatever, and we sat down and the minutes would reflect a strategy was developed in a communication plan, which you would then present to the full committee. Right, now, if you're at a party and, you know, or some chance gathering and, you know, you start to go on that path, you really should stop yourself and say, you know what, let's get a subcommittee meeting together and let's talk about that. I don't know if that clarifies it, but it,
No, I understand.
Public deliberation.
It's public,
It's
it's,
public, it's open public
Yeah.
deliberation.
right, because
For
generally
for
people,
transparency
people
Right.
don't attend our
For-
subcommittee meetings,
Yeah.
but they could,
Yeah.
if they wish to,
is what you
Yeah, for
want
sure.
to aim for.
and you post subcommittee meetings.
You post subcommittee
with
meetings,
basic
yes.
agenda items.
Yes.
That's right.
So I think maybe as circumstances come up, maybe just check, you know, before we do
Yeah.
it, just kind of check and say, you know, if it's something you wonder about, just check it out first.
For sure, that's the best way. to do it,
Yeah.
That helps.
Does that help?
It does,
Okay.
yeah. I'm still,
It's-
coming
it
to
takes-
understand all
believe me,
this
it's-
myself. And
I
it's-
have one more.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry.
got 5 years on it, and she's still,
I
you
still
know,
am like,
we wonder
I'm
sometimes.
still reading.
BCA,
Yep.
in the first paragraph, a school committee member in his/her relation with his/her community should. Number 1 says primary responsibility is to children.
Yep.
Number 5 says he or she represents the entire community at all times.
Right.
So if it comes down to the children or the entire community, you're looking out for the children? Is that what
Your
that is?
responsibility is the children, but you represent the community.
I understand.
Yeah, so in other words, you know, if you had a special interest, which I have to say in the 5 years I've been here, that's one of the greatest things that I have experienced with committees I've had the pleasure to work with, is it's not a special interest committee. People don't get on saying, oh, I'm a music person, man, I'm gonna
Yeah.
force the music agenda. That's never happened, I have to say that. That is not the case in other communities sometimes. I think what this is trying to say basically is that, you know, you don't come before the committee representing only a certain faction because it may be something you're particularly interested in.
Okay.
That, you know, I think that's, I don't think they're intending those things to be a polar opposite. I think it's
That
just,
clarifies
Yeah,
it
yeah.
for me.
it's-
So
It's
maybe,
representing the 1,633 students that go into our buildings every day.
maybe that's something that the
There
policy
are
people can
responsibilities.
just fine tune with some words.
Yeah.
Because the way you just described that clarified that for me.
okay, great.
Thanks.
More?
Nope, that was it.
Work
sure?
in progress.
Positive.
Very helpful.
All right.
You know, Ann, I think we do, if I could just have an executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to non-union personnel. That would be helpful to me.
Do we have one posted, Lauren?
I thought we posted
You
an
don't need to
executive
post
session.
it. You could just do it in this, in the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It will be short, but
Negotiating non.
non-union.
Yeah. Okay, I just have one. I just have one thing I want to do before I get out of this. Actually, 2 things, but they'll be really quick. We had the pleasure of going to the high school graduation 2 weeks ago now. And unfortunately was held inside, but Peter and everyone did an amazing job. It was, unfortunately, I started my morning seeing Mike Anderson trying to get the grounds ready, and I thought, oh, this is not going to work for tomorrow. But they did a great job, and they should all be commended on what they did.
Absolutely.
But Peter read in his speech all the accomplishments that this class did, and I just wanted to share it with everybody, especially the public at home, that we just don't promote ourselves enough and all the great things that we do. So I'm just going to take a minute and read it. It was the largest class to ever graduate from either the Pearly High School or the Georgetown High School, with 118 graduates. 48% of seniors participated in athletics. They have excelled on the athletic field and earned a number of state tournament bids, as well as a league championship and a state title now.
State title.
26% of the class participated in music. They've won countless group and individual music awards in various competitions. An amazing 41% of the class belongs to the National Honor Society. 3% of the class earned certificates of mastery, thus making them eligible for tuition-free education at a state college or a university in Massachusetts. 31% of the class are eligible to receive John and Abigail Adams scholarships. 94% of the class will be continuing their education at many diverse and distinguished institutions. That's the highest percentage in Peter's 9 years as principal. And he said, please feel free to browse the list posted outside the guidance office. So if anyone's in the halls and it's still up, it is very impressive to see. And individuals in the class have been awarded scholarships worth more than $61,400. So hats off to them and the administrators for all the hard work that they did, because, and of course the teachers, to get to this point is just amazing.
I'm glad you read that.
Thank you.
Yes,
I loved it when he read it, and
Fantastic.
I just think
Wonderful to
that
think about.
we should be proud of what everyone's doing in the community.
That's the kind of thing we want the public relations committee to figure out.
Absolutely.
How do we get that? Where would that be like housed?
Exactly.
How do we get that information out?
Exactly.
So thank you to everybody that was involved in that. That was just impressive to see. And then finally, the Pembroke project is going to have, school building committee is going to have a community meeting on June 19th at Pembroke School at 7 o'clock. So everyone at home with your questions of how did we get here, what alternatives were considered, where are we now, what's it going to cost, where's it going to be, who's going to be there, you should go to this meeting again at Pembroke, June 19th at 7 o'clock. All right, is there anything else that anyone didn't cover? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session. We will not be returning to regular session. And this is a roll call vote, so the motion is to go into executive session, chapter 30A, paragraph 21,
I'm not sure if it's 2 or 3.
section 2 for the possibly 3, for the purpose of non-union negotiations. And it's a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. All right, we're now in executive session. Let's just wait until then.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.